Welcome to hour number 2 of Talk of the County, brought to you by Scarpelli's Family Restaurant, Printmaster, and Nilsson's Auto Body.
Good morning, Beth Bradley.
Good morning, Dan Lovallo, for hour number 2.
And we have guests.
We do. Yes, we do. We have Joanne LoBrutto Schroeder from the Warner Theater and Jim Fritch. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show today. Lots of good stuff. We were talking before we came on the mic about all the shows lined up for the Warner. You want to just run down what's coming up and what's here now, Joanne?
We're opening this weekend with Hello, Dolly, which will be February 25th and 26th and March 3rd and 4th. We have got Heidi the Musical coming in March. We have got Carousel coming in May. We've got country shows coming in the fall that we've just booked, such as Ricky Van Shelton in September and Roy Clark in October, working on other shows. And we've got the rest of our musical season, too, which is Music Man in August and Guys and Dolls in November.
Oh, great. So we're going to have a big show for the summer, Music Man.
Mm-hmm.
Rick, who's going to be, Jim, who's going to be directing Music Man?
Tony Spaulding will be doing it this summer. He did, which show did he do for us last year? Well, he's directed twice for Oklahoma, that's the one.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, he directed Oklahoma with the Warner. So this will be his second venture with the theater. Excellent director.
Oh, that's good. Now, you said you're going to be directing.
I'm doing the Carousel, which will be in May, and we have an awesome cast for that. Priscilla
it's all
Squires.
done?
Oh, yeah, we started rehearsals last week, which is kind of fun because we're opening Dolly this weekend, and then we have the cast rehearsing for Carousel at the same time. I think about 3 weeks ago, we had 5 shows in rehearsal down
Oh,
at the Warner.
my gosh. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Now, one of the reasons Joanne and Jim came on the program today was to talk about the capital improvement plan at the Warner. And I think it should be explained that although the state has delivered on a $30,000 grant, it's if you come up with, $90,000? What are the details on that?
The details are that the whole project cost would be $120,000. When I put in the grant application, the state would go for $30,000 with the contingency that we could show that we will have the $90,000 funding available to complete the project.
So how have things gone to this point in order to come up with $90,000?
Excellent.
Yeah, well, we've generated, just in private donations alone, about $24,000 at this point. We're applying for a $30,000 match of that other 30, and we're meeting with a lot of the business community and trying other angles to try and come up with the balance, and then anything that the theater itself can come from its general coffers, which is a little difficult. We're trying to raise and put it all together by July 1st.
Do you have patrons in the Litchfield County area? We're sort of rich with celebrities and people who you would think would support local theater. Do you find?
We have a lot of supporters. I mean, there are a lot of people that are being asked to give to a lot of areas. So it's difficult for businesses and private individuals to do everything they'd like to do, I'm sure. What we're doing is kind of neat. We have, the sidewalk where we engrave the bricks. The general red bricks are like $50 a piece, but we have the outline of a star which has 64 full-sized bricks in it that comprise a star right in front of the box office, and we're selling them special, and we get $1,000 for each brick, and they get their name or whatever message they want to put in the brick. So we're using that as a way to try and generate at least 60 of this 120, because we have 64 bricks in there.
That's great. Are you getting
working.
a response on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's working.
What has to be done in order to improve the Warner Theater? When you talk about capital improvements, what needs to be done?
This roof has been a major problem, and that's the first thing that has to be done, because it's the area over the men's and ladies' room. And if anyone has gone to a show and has gone in the men's or ladies' room, they know what the problem is, because right now there's basically no ceiling left. The plaster has all come down. We've got water dripping in. We've got a sub-roof of plastic that's catching the water into a bucket in the ladies' room. And the same conditions exist in our office, which is on the other side of the ladies' room. It also shares that roof. It's the oldest roof in the property. It's 63 years old. And it really does need to be repaired. But rather than repairing the roof, we've proposed to glass over it because it's a courtyard, and then we're creating a space that we can use in the future. That's one thing. We're also always working on the building. We're always updating electrical and plumbing and heating and air conditioning. Our dream is to restore the whole theater, and not only restore it, but to enlarge the stage house so we can have fly space and a set design area or set shop. dressing rooms. There's a long-range plan with the whole project.
We've received donations for various specific projects in the past and recently, and one of those, which is important to the theater also, is the doors. The exit doors in the theater are original and old and falling off the hinges. And we did receive money, and we have received quotes, and we've gone out to bid and approved a contractor to come in and replace 4 of the doors. It's a very, very expensive proposition. I believe it's costing us about $5,900 for these 4 doors. But right now we can remove the 2x4s that allow them to stay closed, so it's kind of secure. And they'll have the crash bars on. They'll be current and up to code. And these are all things we need to continue to do as we go along. As Joanne says, when we put this roof up, we've created the potential for a space that can be used by the theater in the future. It's not that we're doing anything with that space at this point, but it just seems to make a whole lot more sense to create the potential for that space as opposed to just putting a rubber membrane down over the existing roof and have absolutely nothing.
A potential for things such as?
Such as possibly a lounge concession area. Right now, the concession of the theater, which served well during movies, is right near where all the doors and the entrances are. So when we do a show, now a movie's great because there's no intermission. Right. You come in, you get your popcorn or whatever, and you go sit down. At the end of the movie, you leave. But here we have intermissions in just about everything we do. So if you have 1,700 people all converging on this one little space, you've got a real congestion problem. Every viable theater in the country has some form of a lounge area. I mean, using the Bushnell as an example, they have 2 or 3, I believe, right?
Yes, they do.
And we're talking about a space that potentially we can alleviate some of the congestion of the concession area we have, as well as, provide a service for the patrons who are coming to the theater. And let's be honest, there's a lot to be made in that particular area. You look at your movie theaters today, I'm sure the movie ticket price isn't the biggest part of the money they're pulling in. It's their concession area.
No, absolutely. But even the movie house in Millerton, a movie house, not a theater, but a movie house, has a lounge area where you can go and sit down and have pie and coffee and sit down and at tables. Is this what you're looking at for the Warner down the road?
The longest picture, the long run picture of this is initially a bar lounge area, concession area type thing, with a potential of, because of the whole upstairs space, which, let's face it, in Torrington is a dime a dozen, we can create a full restaurant if need be in the future. So that's the potential of the whole space.
It could also be used as a reception area when we have artists come in for signing autographs, selling their concessions. They'll bring in T-shirts and tapes or whatever. When we put that in the lobby also, which is now adding another congestion point, we would have another space separate from the theater that people can go to and greet them.
And post and pre-show events or events occurring right in there. I mean, we have the Opperman building where we do a small-scale 100-seat intimate theater down there. This also can serve as that type of an event. If you get someone like an Arlo Guthrie coming, maybe you can do an elevated ticket price with meet the artist after, and maybe he'll do a couple songs privately to them in this lounge area. So there's a lot of potential for that space, and let's face it, we should be using our space to its fullest capacity.
When you guys look at the Warner Theater, do you see potential, or do you fret over the troubles that are there now in the building?
Potential.
You see both, too?
I've always had the attitude that it's the Warner is the flagship of downtown. It's an architectural jewel. It should be preserved. And yes, because it's old, there are some problems, but if we keep working at it, there's a lot more potential than we even have scratched the surface on.
Okay, you say the Warner, and and let's be upfront here, we've had our differences on the air, certainly, but I do agree that the Warner is the crown jewel of downtown Torrington and, should be developed. Where can you get that cooperation from the city to develop it, or can you, or are you, or what's going on along those lines?
The Warner is a non-profit corporation which is not really tied into the city of Torrington in any way. I mean, if you look at the Thomaston Opera House, that is a city building. Right. All their funding, or a portion of their funding, as well as some of their grants and things like that, are applied by the city of Thomaston. So there's a benefit there for that, but there's also probably some potential problems with that too. City running the theater business, I don't know, I'm not sure. But right now, the city of Torrington is really not directly involved in the Warner Theater. It's a private company run by a board of directors
But I guess from the standpoint of like parking and that sort of thing, when you're staging a big event, from a parking standpoint and coordination, is there anything the city can do, or is the city doing? Can the city do anything to make the Warner more of an attraction to downtown, or has it?
Well, possibly. I think they've been very receptive to the Warner Theater at this point. You know, parking, we don't really seem to have any problems with parking. I mean, we do have some big lots, and the theater itself has a lot, and the municipal lots. And there's no real charge to anybody coming into the city of Torrington, which is a plus. It's a sale
that's
point.
a big plus.
Yeah.
You know, because most of our shows are in the evening, and I guess the meters stop at around 6. So really, there's no problem in that area. But of course, anytime a city can be behind a building such as the Warner, that's a positive thing, and I think they are.
Ideally, how many shows a year would you like to stage?
Right now, we're doing between 40 and 50 events a year. You know, there is what's called saturation, too. You have to be careful when you're located in northwest Connecticut, the city of Torrington, population of 33, which is interesting why the Warner is even as big as it is in a community this size. So our draw has to be very, very large, as well as our marketing has to be very, very expansive. So, you know, it's very difficult to get the numbers of people in to support doing more than 40 to 50 shows a year. We've tried in the past and been unsuccessful to expand the programming, so we try to keep it to a point where it's supporting the operation and making just enough money to get us by and do some repairs. It's important to note that general programming alone is not going to generate any kinds of dollars that are going to go into capital projects such as this. We have to raise those kinds of money.
What do you view as your drawing area?
Well, it's the tri-state area, but probably anybody will go see something within an hour to an hour and a half radius is usually a good marketing figure, you know, somewhere in that range. So we'll draw well from the Hartford area, the Danbury area, you know, definitely within this community, Litchfield, Winsted, New Hartford, Goshen. Those towns are very, very supportive. We maintain about a 17,500 person mailing list, which are people who have attended over the last 7 years since we've instituted this mailing list. And that grows by about 500-600 people a year. And I always find it amazing how many people walk in that door have never been there before. So we're reaching out there somewhere.
You've got a big billboard in downtown Hartford.
Did have.
Oh, no longer?
No longer,
because
but
I
yes.
thought that was great.
And we also had one concurrently in Waterbury, and they were a great source of bringing new people into the theater. Extremely costly, so we've had to back away from some of that kind of advertising, which we hope to put back in the future.
Yeah.
How has the cabaret theater gone?
Well, that was the dinner theater that we did was totally
I heard good
sold
things
out.
about that.
It was amazing. It was a concept. We wanted to expand our community-based programming, so it was done by the Warner Stage Company, who presents the musicals. We did it in our studio theater. We brought in the local restaurants, so you had dinner there. You left the dinner and went to our studio theater where we supplied coffee and dessert there. Now we had cabaret set up tables, 4 to a table, and we had the candles. We had, you know, it was really set up nice. And then they watched Neil Simon's Barefoot in the Park, absolutely, and loved it. And we accommodated 336 people for the week, sold it out completely, and we have about 70 sold to the one that's coming in July. And we're going to expand it to 3 or 4 a year.
What's the play in July?
Lovers and Other Strangers.
Oh, that'll be great. Now, how did the local restaurants make out that worked with you?
I mean, we did a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday performance. Now, the Friday, Saturday, and possibly even Thursday, restaurants typically aren't hurting too much. But we were putting 56 people into their restaurant on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evening. I think they were real happy.
That's great. Now, that's creative. How did you come up with the concept? Did you guys design it, or
something I wanted to do all along?
Yeah.
It's the comedy shows they're not as successful in the theater because the theater's too big. And that's why the studio theater was a perfect venue for it.
What have been traditionally your most popular draws to the Warner?
The musicals.
The musicals. Is it because of the number of people involved in the musicals?
Sure. Well, as a matter of fact, I was going over a survey that was done by Worcester Polytech back before when we were trying to buy the theater. And even back then, people wanted to see musicals. There was musicals, there was country, there was comedy, but musicals were always at the top of the list.
Yeah.
We draw between 4,000 and 7,000 people to each of our musicals. Wizard of Oz this summer, 6,800 and something people saw it. Our biggest attended musical, I think, was Annie, 7,400 and something people in 5 runs.
So how much work goes into a musical as far as rehearsals, tryouts, the whole time frame?
From the audition process to performance is about a 2.5 to 3 month period of time, rehearsing 3 nights a week, 2 to 3 hours a night. And the scenery is really probably one of our biggest draws. Rick Doyle, an excellent artist, has been known for some of the artwork he's done. We'll use 2 to 3 murals per show, which are 50 feet wide, 20 feet high, and he paints them from scratch. And they're absolutely beautiful set pieces, which can at times be a little bit too big for the Warner. But, we have some very massive sets on that stage. We fill it. It's a big stage. We fill it and then put anywhere from 50 to 150 people on the stage, typically. Wizard of Oz this summer had 300 and something.
That was a great show. I saw that.
So that your next production after Hello, Dolly, your next musical is what?
Carousel.
And that's yours.
And you're already working on that now?
Yeah, we started last week.
With tryouts? Or
We held the auditions about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, and we started rehearsing on the 13th, and we'll go up May 5th or 6th, somewhere in that range. Yeah.
Plus, we've got the school rehearsing Heidi down at the school.
Oh, tell us about that a little bit.
They'll come into the theater right as soon as Dolly closes. The first weekend of March, Dolly closes, and then Heidi comes in. They'll be doing set construction. They'll have an orchestra, which is the first time that we've had an orchestra for the school shows. They've done one show a year in the theater. They might have done it to pre-recorded music, or at least have a pianist and maybe a guitarist in the orchestra. Now they've got a full orchestra because Matt and Barbara Valenti have created the music for this. It'll be the first time heard at the theater.
To anyone who's not familiar with the school, tell us a little bit about the school and where the actors are coming from Heidi.
The actor, that was an open audition, I believe, for Heidi. It has adults and kids in it, but the school that we have, which is run by Barry Hewson, is a drama arts type school where there's dance, there's playwriting, there's photography, there's drama, teen drama, and they all have performance opportunities of some form. So the school, which is housed in the Allen building, is one section where it's pretty much a dance studio in there, and some of our classes are held, art room downstairs, to the second floor section of the Allen building, where we have private voice and ensemble voice classes, and some art classes. We're looking at a photography darkroom up in there.
Great.
And to the studio theater, which is the old Opperman building, where a lot of the drama classes are held, as well as performances, which this year have expanded dramatically, where the kids were doing, well, they did Agnes of God. There was a person in that cast. Then the school did
Through a Child's Eyes.
Through a Child's Eyes, which was written by Val Vitalo, a local teacher. And they performed Snoopy. The kids from their class performed that, 3 performances. They performed
Our Town.
They're doing Bridge to Terabithia. So a lot of neat stuff. And the kids from the school, you have to be from the school to be in those particular shows. And it's a great way for them to get experience in the performing arts.
So the Warner building itself, in addition to the 40 or 50 performances you may have a year, something's usually going on in a rehearsal or something taking place.
All the time.
Every night.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, if someone listening to the program today wants to contribute to the Warner, how can they do so?
They can send their contribution to the Warner Theater, Post Office Box 1012, Torrington.
Okay, very good.
One other thought from a fundraising standpoint. I don't even know if the Warner could do this, but those people who remember the Warner from years ago, it used to be a movie theater. Have you ever thought, or could you have a movie there?
We talk about it all the time. One problem we have is we don't have a screen right now. When the theater was closed for that 1 year that it was closed, vandals got in and they ripped the movie screen to shred, and at that time it was the largest screen in the state.
Oh,
So
what a shame.
And plus, because we're doing live theater, right, we have one set of lenses. I always get confused whether they're the scope or the flat lenses, but we would need the other type of lenses to use to do the film. Plus, because we do live theater, we need a type of screen now that we can move out of the way. The screen that was on the stage was a concave screen. It was on a frame, which we couldn't do that again. We would have to bring in a screen that we could either roll up or bring out of the way. The projectors are still operable. They're still the original projectors.
A glimmer of hope.
Still in good condition.
We were working with Who was it? Which station? In New York, the guy we met with.
Well, Warner Brothers,
Warner
actually.
Brothers. Okay, so we were working with the Warner Brothers, and they were very interested in trying to help us as a fundraiser bring in a first run.
Oh,
And
that'd be great.
Wow,
so,
right in
well,
the
we
Warner.
investigated that. We haven't put that together yet, so that's something we're looking at. Opening of a movie at the a Warner
Yeah.
Brothers movie at the
Yeah.
Warner Theater. Hopefully, the guest stars who are appearing in the film would be there. They were back then. We were looking at other people's money, which was
Yeah.
filmed in Connecticut, and it was hopefully, but it was like $10,000 to $15,000 in rental alone,
Right.
just to bring in the screen
Right.
and the projector.
And what would you make?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, see, that's the thing.
Wish we knew.
Right.
It's a gamble. Well, the whole business is a gamble.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear. I mean, it's simple if you're selling widgets, but we don't know if the widget is something that
Yeah.
you want.
But boy, from a fundraising standpoint, if that could be pulled off, because I mean, the Warner went to the movies at the Warner for a one-time, sort of like a throwback to another era. That would be something.
Well, I'll tell you for sure, we are definitely investigating it, and it's still in our minds, and it's just like the dinner theater. It's something that when the day is right, and we can put it together, it'll be there.
I mean, is it right that Warner Brothers, when they built the theater back in the 30s, selected this area because it represented a microcosm of New York City as far as seeing how audiences would play to the movies?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. And they felt if a movie was successful in Torrington, it would be successful in New York or all over the country. So they spent $750,000 to build the theater in Torrington in the Depression.
Wow.
That's amazing, isn't it?
And
Yeah, that really is.
we bought it for $132,000 in 1982. And it's a large piece of property in downtown Torrington. It has a value. Other than the architectural value, the property has a value.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, great. So anyone who wants to make a contribution to help the Warner in its continuing restoration efforts, Post Box
1012.
1012 in Torrington, 06790. Great. Well, Jim and Joanne, thanks for coming today.
Thanks
We
for
hope you'll
joining
come
us.
back and let us
Yeah.
know how it continues to
Thank
go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And-
We have the nice thing is we have a goal, and it's July 1st, so we're working feverishly to try and
And-
generate that money. We don't want to give up that money from the state.
Yes, that's
The
right.
$30,000 grant is that you're or the other grant that you're applying for. That's a state grant too.
No.
Okay, what?
It's a private foundation.
private foundation.
Okay, and they're going to match what you've raised.
No, we're
You hope.
applying.
We're
We're
going to
hoping.
apply.
You hope.
We've applied. We hope to know in middle of March about that one.
Oh,
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well,
All
good
right.
luck.
Yes,
Thanks
thanks
for
for coming
joining us.
today. Thanks for
Yes.
stopping by.